Hello, and welcome back to Mr. B Teaches History. Today we will examine the actual presidency of Andrew Jackson and the policies he enacted as president. So let's get to it. While Andrew Jackson was president for 8 years, his power, persona, and policies dominated American politics for almost 2 decades, from before the election of 1824 through the presidential term of his successor, Martin Van Buren. Andrew Jackson symbolized the emerging working and middle class of the United States because he was one of them. He and many people felt that he represented all people and was seen as the protector of the common man against the rich. Due to his narrow interpretation of the U.S. Constitution, he vetoed more bills passed by Congress than any other presidents before him combined. While he did have a formal cabinet of heads of the executive department, they did not advise him as much as his closest non-official advisors, who became known as the kitchen cabinet due to where they usually met in the White House. One of the more popular policies of Andrew Jackson was that of the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which forced Native American Indian tribes to resettle west of the Mississippi River. Jackson had sided with the land-hungry white American settlers against the Indians, and removal seemed like the most humane solution to the problems of settlers and American Indians fighting. The Cherokee Nation, which had civilized themselves, fought against the removal by taking their case to the United States Supreme Court twice. In the first case of the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, the court ruled that the Cherokee were not a foreign nation and therefore had no right to sue in federal court. But in Worcester v. Georgia, the court said that Georgia had no power to enforce the law in Cherokee territory. Andrew Jackson, though, ignored the ruling and forced them out anyway. This led to one of the worst parts of Indian removal when over 4,000 Cherokee died on the trek from Georgia to Indian Territory in modern-day Oklahoma and Kansas. Many southern states did not agree or support the tariff passed in 1828, including the sitting president, Andrew Jackson. South Carolina took the first step and declared it unconstitutional and said that the state had the right to refuse to enforce it in their state, a practice known as nullification. This was the idea of Jackson's vice president, John C. Calhoun, and had seen as the only viable option to prevent disunion. They drew much of their arguments from the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions written by Jefferson and Madison in response to the Alien and Sedition Acts of President John Adams in the 1790s. In Congress, Robert Haynes of South Carolina defended the state's right to nullify laws that they deemed unconstitutional as a way to resist the tyranny of the government. Daniel Webster of Massachusetts argued that the Constitution was created by the people, not the states. Therefore, the people could resist unconstitutional laws through the regular means of government, like the courts. South Carolina eventually had a state convention that nullified the tariff, and Jackson responded by signing the Force Act, which allowed him to use military force against South Carolina to collect the tariff and proclaims that nullification is treason. Before they came to blows, Congress compromised on a new tariff to replace the 1828 tariff, and the crisis ended. Jackson and his followers were suspicious of the Second Bank of the United States. They thought it was an unconstitutional institution like Jefferson thought of the First National Bank, and that it only served the interests of the wealthy in the United States. Jackson was also suspicious of Nicholas Biddle of abusing the power as its head. Henry Clay supported the Bank of the United States and challenged Andrew Jackson for the presidency in 1832. The bank was the central issue of the campaign, and when Jackson won re-election, he vetoed it because he felt the voters gave him a mandate to refuse to recharter the bank and then proceeded to destroy it during his second term. Jackson's second term was largely uneventful, with few new policies being proposed or passed. During his second term, though, Jackson transferred the money from the Second Bank of the United States to pet banks in the states that supported Jackson. Due to his financial policies of giving money to the pet banks and rampant land speculation, Jackson signed an executive order requiring all land purchases to be paid for in silver or gold. This made paper bank money lose their value, and the amount of land sales fell during his term. These policies also led to an economic panic after he left office. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or clarifications you would like to make about this lecture, please leave a comment below. If you learned something new, please consider leaving a like. If you would like to receive notifications of more content like this, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell. If you would like to support this channel and creator financially, please check out the links in the description for merchandise or sites that will provide me direct financial support for the work of this channel. Thank you for your time and have a great day. Class dismissed.